This is Beyond the Bell Tower, where an elite group of North Carolina State University students give us a behind-the-scenes look at their steps to success and show us how they attain even their lofty goals. These students, who are in the top 10% of the country, are active in Student Support Services at NC State, a nationally recognized program designed to provide support for low-income, first-generation college students. Nationally, this population has an 11% graduation rate within 6 years. The Student Support Services students surpass that rate each year and go on to become doctors, dentists, accountants, and engineers. They work at Google, Apple, and the NCAA. They have earned PhDs in Ivy League colleges. These students go well beyond the bell tower to reach this level of success.
All right, so we are now recording, and I'm Isaiah Ackridge, your host with Beyond the Bell Tower with Trio Student Support Services. And today we have Dylan McDonald, and he will be talking about his experience working while in college and any other tips or gems or just anything, his story that he wants to share. So Dylan, I'm going to hand it off to you and just kind of like introduce us to you, and let's get started.
Yeah, so I'm Dylan McDonald. I'm currently a senior here at NC State. I'm double majoring in psychology and human biology with the hopes of eventually going into medical school.
Definitely. So you said senior, right? Like, how can you believe it? Like, did it go by fast, or how was that?
COVID made it go by fast. Like, I felt like I was getting a good amount of college experience in each of those semesters, and then everything went online. Now it's kind of like a blur, and I'm some $10,000 in debt and graduating.
Definitely heavy on the debt part, man. That is definitely a constraint with college graduates. Since you are a senior and like COVID has decrease the amount of experiences that you've been able to gain, like, has that impacted you in any types of ways, or you kind of just like adapted to it?
I feel like both, like especially as it relates to like wanting to go to medical school. They want you to have certain types of experiences under your belt, before you even are admitted. So they want you to have a certain amount of clinical experience hours. They want you to have a bunch of like non-clinical volunteering hours, things like animal shelters or soup kitchens, that kind of stuff, Habitat for Humanity. And then they also want like a bunch of extracurricular stuff like clubs and research experiences. And while, they may not require these things, it's things that definitely would help your application. But, with COVID happening, there's a lot of instances where hospitals are suspending temporarily their volunteering practices. Like I know UNC Rex had put their volunteer program on hold just because they wanted to minimize contact. And last year, I was supposed to be a part of a research lab and, get engaged and have hands-on experience. But because of COVID, they made it so that it was all virtual. And so while I was still a part of that lab, I didn't really get the hands-on content and like learning that I was supposed to. And so it's like instances like that where, that's a way that COVID has 100% held back myself and other, people going through similar circumstances. But, on the flip, I have a job right now at a psychiatric hospital, and because of COVID, they actually needed more staff members just to be more cautious and have certain policies in place. And so I attribute COVID to, being part of the reason that I was able to get the job.
Right. So in many ways, COVID was a negative thing, but like you can also draw some positive aspects from the whole situation as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, originally Sarah Wright, which works with Trio, she told me to contact you to talk about your working experience while in college. So I guess one of the first questions that comes up for me is like, have you worked consistently through since freshman year, or like when and like how long was like your working experience?
So I have worked nonstop throughout college, with the exception of like 5 months at the beginning of my sophomore year. So when I first came into college, I was still working at IHOP from my hometown. Whenever I was like on a break or anytime that I went home, I would try and get some hours in just to, help beef up the bank account a little bit, because college, it'll take it out of you really quick, especially when you don't know how to manage your money. And I can't think of anyone worse to manage their money than me freshman year. So like that was helpful. But also I was able to be a part of the federal work study. So I was able to, it wasn't a whole, it was ridiculous pay. I think it was like at the time was pretty good. Mm-hmm. But I was able to work at a middle school and help teachers after school with like lesson preparing and setting things up like that. And so that was something that was local. It was only like a 10 or 15 minute drive from state. But, it was still a pain because, 15-minute, driving doesn't sound bad as a senior, but as a freshman, where freshman parking is so like minute and it's like very inconvenient, the places where you get the parking. After class, I remember I would have to like illegally park at the Target on Hillsborough just so that I could run to Target, get in the car, and then race over to the middle school on time. So, there's like drawbacks to it for sure, but that's not any fault of like the work study program. That was just like one of those situations where, it's an inconvenience, but I was still grateful for that work experience. But most of my work experiences haven't gone on for like 3 or 4 years. I usually stay at a job for about a year, and then something will come up and it stops me from being able to do that, whether it's moving or like with the middle school sophomore year, Wake County wasn't able to, I guess, reach an agreement with NC State. And so they suspended that specific job within the work study program. And so all of that experience that I had and those connections that I made at that specific middle school, I wasn't able to do that for a work study. So instead of, trying to find another work study, I held out because they said it's a possibility that they're going to be able to work something out. But that's where that 5 months where I wasn't working came into effect. After that, I was like, okay, I need a job. So started working at Food Lion. And then I was also working as like a handyman or like landscaper for some guy that was about 20 minutes away from campus. And so I did that for about a year. And then once COVID hit, that's when, my hours started getting slashed, and I was able to finally get that, job at the psychiatric hospital that I'm still working at right now.
Definitely. And so I did want to highlight your work experiences and stuff like that, but I didn't want that to kind of be the main focus of this, because I feel like even though, it was probably stressful to work and go to school, like the skill set that you've gained and like the ability to manage like time management is way more valuable in like talking about than like, all these jobs that I worked, I feel. So like, I really kind of want to dive deep into, how disciplined were you like in managing your time and like managing your efforts, because working is already hard. You know what I mean? Like just clocking in general and staying for a specific amount of time and doing tasks and stuff like that. That's difficult, but also taking credits, like even if it's 12 to 15, like that's also very difficult. So I kind of want to just navigate that space for a bit and then just kind of see what your inputs are and like how you maintain discipline throughout your experience.
Yeah. So I feel like all those different attributes and that discipline really came in whenever I got my current job, because the jobs that I had before, they were what I would consider more like high school jobs where, the managers seem to be a little bit more flexible. They know that you're in school. And so if something comes up or you have exams that week, then you can, it's as simple as, hey, I'm going to be a little bit busier this time. I can't come into work. But whenever I got the job at the hospital, from the get-go in the interview, they were like, well, we need somebody that can work, Friday, or excuse me, they said Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And I explained, like, I'm not going to be able to do that because we might go in person again. And even if I'm not in person, I have Zoom classes that I have to attend to on Monday. And so they were able to work with me and do that Saturday and Sunday, but it was going to be 13-hour shifts. And it was going to be like require that I show up. There's no like, letting them know like a week before, hey, I have an exam coming up, so I can't work this weekend. So I had to really manage my time. And it was tough because as a student, you want to focus on making sure that you're able to afford everything, you get the best grades possible and get as much out of the education that you're paying for. But then also, like, you're a human being, you want to spend time with friends and go out and do things. And so having this 13-hour shift on Saturday and Sunday, it's like you got to realize you're giving up your weekends basically entirely, like from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. That's the whole day. And whenever you come back, you're exhausted. So there is no like, oh, I'll just save it for the weekend and then I'll do this assignment, because you realize you're not going to have the energy to do anything in that weekend. So the idea of like time management was really crucial my junior year, even more so than when I was holding on to jobs in the past, because it was like, if it was due Sunday at midnight, it was like, that means that I had to finish it by like Friday at 11 p.m. And if I wanted to hang out Friday, it means I finished it Thursday. And so it was almost like this budgeting of how I wanted to spend out my time. And you no longer get that opportunity to say, you know what, I'm feeling like I want to just take a break right now and go hang out with friends, because that time is like insanely valuable during that week.
Definitely. Wow. That's like, you kind of have to plan out everything and have everything kind of scheduled for you to even follow that constraint of time. So that's really commendable, I feel, because a lot of people don't learn time management until they have families. You know what I mean? Kids got to go to school and whatnot. Or, even if you don't have kids, you still have to be up for work and traffic and whatnot. So the fact that, you learned that while you're in school is it will prove beneficial, and it's probably already proving beneficial as well. So like with that, you talked a little bit about you not being able to go out on the weekends, or you having to do your work in advance to go out on the weekends, like, or Friday. So like socially, like, have you had a good social experience while in college and working at the same time?
It goes back to what you were saying. Like you learn to manage your time, and like if you learn how to manage your time, it's not like that time is being stolen from you. You just plan your time out better. You don't allow yourself to waste that time. So I knew that for like just about every weekend that I wouldn't have that ability to go out. So I would, make plans with friends throughout the week. Or if I had, or if, there was a certain event that my friends wanted to like go and do something, like we wanted to go snowboarding whenever the resorts and stuff were open, and the mountains actually had a good amount of snow on them. So I would plan ahead for that. So like if it was October, I'd, just pick a weekend. I'd say, hey, let's just commit ahead of time. This weekend we'll go and we'll do that. And so, I'd, put in a request for some time off just for like that one weekend so that I could go and do that. So it's definitely more difficult managing a social life, but it's 100% doable. You just have to be active in making sure that you're keeping, I guess, those friendships like maintained. You can't be passive about it. You have to realize that, if you have people that you enjoy hanging out with, you need to commit time to that, which means you have to remember that whenever you're planning other events in your life.
Definitely. And I totally agree with that. And it kind of like makes me think about some of the things that we think about while in college, even if you're not working. I feel like this, what you said was very important. You have to like maintain these relationships that you build with people. And I'm only a junior, but throughout college, I've noticed that in the beginning, like freshman year, sophomore year, I was like kind of like, oh, why aren't people like hitting me up to hang out and stuff like that? And like people do, don't get me wrong, but I also found out that like I have to kind of like put my pride aside, and because when you're in college, like everyone's busy, like everyone's doing something either to better their life or they're studying for multiple tests that they have, or, you know what I mean? They're relaxing, and relaxing is something that you should make a priority as well. But like when you actually hit up people and say, hey, like, can we schedule some time to have dinner, or can we schedule a time to do this? Like 9 times out of 10, people will say yes. And like, that's when you can get your social interaction versus like, I feel, and I'm sure that you'll probably agree with me on this, is like in high school, since you're all in the same place consistently, you kind of know everyone's schedule, and like, you don't have as many responsibilities because like it's high school, like it's high school. It's definitely not as hard as college. But in high school, since you are in the same place consistently, like if you want to do something after school, you already have the plans in motion because you spent all day together. I know that sometimes in college, like I don't even see people until like the end of the week. So you really have to be present when you do hang out with people, because like you're barely seeing them in the beginning anyway. So
right.
I definitely agree with you on that. Kind of like, I'm curious to know, how was the transition from your high school to college? Like,
I was a lot more introverted in high school. And so I started to open up my senior year of high school. But, you know, I would hear all these people say, like, I'm so excited to be done with high school and I just want to start college. And I noticed that, like, those same people, it's like they wouldn't take advantage of the time that they still had left in high school. And then that like mentality kind of still persists in college, where, you know, once college starts to get difficult, they're like, oh, you know, I can't wait to be finished with school and be done with all of this, and I can just, like, you know, start living life. And it's like, I 100% understand that, because it can be like almost demoralizing just being hit with assignments week after week. And then you do that for an entire semester, and then you get a month off, and then it's another semester back, you know, all over again. But at the same time, it's like you have to utilize the time that you have right now. And so it's like, even back in high school, it was like, I was excited to go to college, but I still wanted to make the most out of my high school. So whenever I transitioned to college, I was a little bit homesick for probably about the first month or so.
Right.
And then, you know, it kind of hit me like, you know, it doesn't matter how homesick I am. This is where I'm going to be for the next 4 years of my life. And so I started taking advantage of the time that I had here at State. So making new friends, but also still keeping in touch with some of the other friends that I had in high school that also went to State.
Right.
And joining like extracurriculars and stuff. Like, that's a great way to meet people, especially like you have a common interest that you can talk about. Even if you're like not super close with somebody in the beginning, you're able to have those conversations, and they may not end up becoming like a really good friend, but it's still like an acquaintance that you enjoy talking to. Right. And so it's that same mentality now of like, right now I'm excited to graduate, but I'm not trying to rush it, because I still want to try and enjoy this like last semester as much as I can before I'm out.
Right. And I do agree with you on that as well. That brings me to my next point. Like, what do you think administration or faculty can do for students that don't come into college where their parents make 6 figures and can send their child $1,000 a month or something like that?
Yeah.
Probably a week sometimes, honestly. But like, you know what I mean? Like, what can college and just administration do for students that have to work to like maintain their living necessities? Because I mean, it's more than just not having, you do need shelter and you do need books and stuff like that. Like the college does provide that, which is very useful. And I appreciate like financial aid in the government and whatnot for stuff like that. But like also, you still need food and you still need to have a social life. Like everybody deserves to have some type of social community. And in the kind of society we live in now, it literally takes money for everything that you want to do.
Yeah.
So what would you say like college can do differently?
It's weird because I feel like, especially when I did some of the extracurriculars, like my sophomore year, it's essentially hall council, but it's the IRC, the Inter Residence Council here at State, and they have representatives from every residence hall meet up, once a week, and they have like this general assembly, and they'll have spokespersons from different departments. Like we had the Department of Housing and Transportation and then dining come and speak, and they would talk about all these resources that they provide, because especially as a student, you complain a lot, probably with some of your friends or even classmates, about how things can be better. And these different departments, that'll eventually trickle up. They'll end up hearing these issues that people have. And so they try and address those, and they have these resources, but nobody ever knows about them. Like when I was in IRC, they would come and do these presentations and they would talk about these things, or even outside of those specific departments, they would have a bunch of resources that the students are in essence paying for with their tuition, but it's getting like no coverage, like nobody knows about them. And so I think it was like, I didn't even know about the Feed the Pack thing until COVID hit. And then I was getting like emails flooded with it. But prior to that, if you didn't have a dining plan, then you were having to go to like the Food Line or the Target. And if you're going to the Target, you're paying some extreme prices. But even still, going to Food Line, if you don't have a car, that's a pretty good walk. And someone who doesn't have like a car, or somebody who doesn't have a dining plan, if they were clueless about like the Feed the Pack, for example, then they would have been completely out of luck. What IRC wanted to do, and I don't know if this is the case because COVID happened while we were trying to work on it, but they wanted to have like a document that kind of like centered a bunch of different resources that students can look into and reach out for in case they needed help. And we were just going to have it all on one document and have it very manageable and easy to navigate, so that people who did need some type of specific resource could find that. And it's kind of sad that you have to do so much digging to find services that you're paying for, but they're there. So I would say that like if someone is in need of resources, reach out to your advisors, because advisors are generally helpful, especially as it relates to TRIO. Like Sarah has been extremely helpful for me. I remember after COVID hit, I needed a place to stay during the summer, and she was able to get me in touch with somebody. So I was able to actually find a place to live for that summer, and I wasn't paying like an outrageous price or anything. Like I had my own room and stuff, which is more than I think would have been the case if I had tried to stay on campus for that summer. I was paying less and I had more space, just because, you have these individuals, you have these advisors that are, being paid to try and help people, and people generally want to help others. And so just reach out, because if you're not knowledgeable about a certain resource, then if you ask someone else who is more knowledgeable, they'll be able to get you to where you need to go.
Definitely. And I like how you just said, like, reaching out and like not being afraid to ask when you need something. And I think that's like a big thing in our culture. It's just like we feel either timid or just scared to like ask for resources and ask for help, when in reality, like we all need each other. Like, we're humans, you know what I mean? We thrive in community. And I think that that's like one of the best advice like you just gave. Like, just if you need something, ask, because you never know what opportunities can arise. Because if you don't ask, like, I remember I heard a quote when I was younger all the time, like, a closed mouth or closed mouth don't get fed, or
yeah.
So it's like, asking, and it can be a little intimidating to say, hey, like, I'm running low on groceries this month. Like, I can't buy groceries. That's very intimidating for a college student that's trying to form their identity and not feel so intimidated. But like, if you're struggling on groceries, like, now I need to go to feed the pantry, and they have like a whole pantry full of items like canned goods, or they may have meat sometime. I haven't been in there yet, but like, these are all resources that can help you feel more secure and like more stable versus struggling and like, you know what I mean? Like, kind of like making yourself struggle almost, because there are people in the world and at this school that want to help. So I definitely agree with you. Another thing I would ask too, like, what advice would you give to somebody that wants to kind of raise their confidence and like take more opportunity? And even with working, like, what advice would you give to somebody that works throughout college and like for like hope or something, like after they get out?
It's like you gotta surround yourself with people that you want to become. So it's like, I liked what you were saying about a lot of people feel intimidated about certain things, because it's a reality. Like, especially here at NC State, I remember, it's probably higher now, but I remember my freshman year, they said the median income, household income for each student here was like $100,000 or something, maybe a little bit higher. And you look at like the median household income in the United States, it's 60,000. So there's definitely a huge discrepancy. And whenever you are reaching out and you're needing these resources, then you're kind of like highlighting yourself as an outlier. And especially people who deal with, confidence issues, they're not going to want to be that person. So if you're that person, you're standing in line outside the Feed the Pack, there might be a certain discomfort. And I remember sophomore year, right after COVID hit, when I was really struggling, I had to get on SNAP or food stamps. That was pretty embarrassing, especially even at Food Line. You'd pull out the SNAP card and you'd like swipe it really quick so nobody sees like the front side of it, because you don't want that perception on you. You don't want people to think, this person can't even afford their own groceries. They need, they're getting handouts from the government. Nobody wants that perception on them. But it doesn't change the fact that you need help, and you have to realize that it's not just about you. Like, if you are the person standing in line, it's not like you're the only one that's being affected. It's like, yeah, you're taking some of that stigma, but you're also taking it away from somebody else. So if you're that person standing in line, if you're the only person in line, now it's no longer as intimidating if someone else gets in line right behind you. And so I think the only times that I have been to the Feed the Pack was when COVID was like at its highest, back in late spring of 2020. And I remember the line wrapped around that building.
Right.
And you get in line there, and it's like, now it's like that stigma was gone. Nobody was embarrassed to stand in line with hundreds of other people. It's like, it was sad that a pandemic had to happen so that you could finally see all those faces that need to be helped, because it's not like they didn't exist before, you just didn't see them.
Right.
And so whenever it comes to like problems with confidence, even if it relates to work, it's like, realize however embarrassed or however like anxious you might be and having like these intruding thoughts, realize you're not the only person that's doing that.
Right.
And at the very least, you taking on that stigma and taking on those social consequences is, I guess, maybe not being a role model, but it's at least making it easier for someone else who's going through a similar situation to realize that they can get help.
Right.
So they can ask for resources, and if they need to work, yeah, they can work. And so that's why I say, like, surround yourself with people that you want to be like, or people that are going through certain situations, so that you don't have to feel like you're doing it alone. You have people that are going through similar situations.
And I totally agree with you. One thing I wanted to point out too, for all of our listeners, if you are receiving benefits from the government, it's really not hurting anybody else technically, because regardless, you still pay tax. Like if you work and you receive benefits in college, your tax money still goes to the benefits that you receive. So technically you're paying for your groceries. It's just
right.
like coming in a lump sum. And then two, you getting they advertised in Trio like $250 a month per groceries. You know what I mean? Like you getting $250 versus a billionaire making thousands of dollars per hour. Like it doesn't like when you start looking at things in the grand scheme of things, you realize how little you're still getting if you even getting $200 a month in groceries, because technically everybody in America could receive free grocery or like SNAP benefits, and it wouldn't even put a dent in the highest paid people in America. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So,
and only one of those has the stigma attached to it. The other one is, it's like good on them.
Exactly. So, you know what I mean? Like, if you are receiving benefits, don't feel like that equals to your self-worth as a person, because honestly, like everyone in America deserves benefits. Everyone in America deserves free healthcare. You know what I mean? Like groceries, you shouldn't be going to the grocery store spending $200 something. Like groceries are supposed to be $50 and stuff like that. I remember my grandparents tell me that they went to the grocery store and they got like a jug of milk for 10 cents. You go to the grocery store now, you get milk for $4. You know what I mean? Like inflation is happening. Like a lot of things are happening in our country right now. And it's always on the working class. Oh, they're receiving handouts. Oh, they're receiving these benefits, or they're living on Section 8, or, you know what I mean? The working class doesn't want to work, but nobody really stops to think about, okay, we have people becoming billionaires, and we have people that have an incomprehensible amount of money. And I think that people don't really realize the utility of money, because like the minimum wage hasn't went up yet. Like it's still $7.25 in some states, and it's $15 regardless. You making $7.25 an hour versus the top paying CEOs making $100 an hour, or like $200 or $150 an hour. Like it just doesn't, like
right.
your mind can't comprehend that. So you then think about your self-worth, because you're getting groceries. You're getting groceries for your kids. You're getting groceries for yourself. And in college, it's like none of us can work 40 hours a week because we don't have the time. So it's like, if you're you still need to eat. It's like, so it just doesn't make sense. Like, I don't get the whole stigmas behind anything regarding government benefits, because the government is supposed to be benefiting us. That's like what the government's for.
Right. And it's like people, and this took me a while to realize too, is that like there's those social safety nets for a reason, right? If you're someone who's getting some form of welfare from the government, it should not be a label as you aren't a contributing member of society. That's why you're receiving this aid. It should be, and it is, you are a contributing member of society. And that's why you need this aid, because we want to support you, because your worth to society as a whole is, far more than however much you're receiving. So if you can't make ends meet and you need money for groceries, right, the government's going to give you that money for groceries because it understands that the amount to which you contribute to the larger world around us is more than the $200 you received a month for groceries. And I feel like the larger that, or the more that people talk about this kind of stuff, it devalues the degree to which stigma can play on it. So if you express these ideas and you talk about it more openly, then that makes someone else realize, this person seems just like me, and they're going through these things, and they're not ashamed about getting these types of benefits. So maybe I don't need to be ashamed about it either. And it can impact the way that people view themselves, but also view others. And it can help take away from that kind of like idea of people being less than because they need help.
Yeah. And this whole conversation just got me thinking, because like it's such a hot topic, and it's such like a hot debate in America right now. And it's like one thing that you said that really pointed me out is the contribution to society. Like college students that come to college on financial aid and whatnot, or receive some type of financial assistance throughout college, if they go through college, especially NC State, and they go to a job in corporate or medical field or whatnot, like their contribution to that field it's great. You know what I mean? And so like just with the time and like the energy that they spent, but if you're spending your energy throughout college working, trying to pay rent and trying to get groceries, you're not going to learn as much. You know what I mean? And then when you graduate, you're not going to have any skills that translate over from what you were supposed to learn in college, because you were on survival mode the entire time. And I think that a lot of our generation, whether you're in college or not, like if you come from a low income family or a middle class family or whatever, like you are in survival mode. And then that just translates to the cycle that's continuing to be perpetuated because everyone's trying to survive. And it's like, and I know that like, I have to realize that I'm speaking from a position of privilege because I am in college, and that's just a privilege in itself. Mm-hmm. And even though I may be low income, like I still am in college though. You know what I mean? I still get resources. There's people that don't even have access to any type of resource at all.
Right.
You know what I mean? They don't even have a car to go to a job. They don't even have clothes to wear to get to work at a job. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like once I feel like we kind of shift our mindset in America, even in the world, to like, we need to stop focusing on surviving. We need to actually help people thrive. So it's like all the college graduates, instead of like donate to the university. Yes. Like I don't want the donations to the university to ever stop, but also like go deeper into that and like see what communities and subset groups within the college are struggling and need more resources. So if any of us from state become CEO, you know what I mean? Like if you making 10 mil, take $500,000 and just say, hey, like, oh, we have these group of kids that really need some clothes so they can go to their internship for the summer and like buy them some suits and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
So, because the university does allocate money to different organizations and different things around campus, but like from an individual aspect, there are kids that A, like you said, don't know about these resources, or B, feel kind of scared and like intimidated. So like these investors and stuff can target the individuals more than the whole like group, I feel.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. And there's like some of those things too. It's like, I didn't even know until last year, like the Center for, or Career Development Center, they have clothes that you can rent out or whatever, like to help you with interviews, which, like if we had those same types of things, like outside of the university, that'd be extremely helpful because, I agree with you. People who are in college do possess that certain type of like privilege. They're more fortunate than other people. And so the realization is that most people, if they're already in college, they probably at least have like one outfit that they can wear to an interview, because you already have to possess, certain things just to live on campus or just to attend university, whereas that may not be the case outside of the university. And so there's a lot of programs that either exist right now or could be created to further help people. And so I agree with you. If you are able to benefit from the aid and the help that you received while you were here at state, give that back. Give as much as you're able to back. And so it's like, you may, even if it doesn't come in the form of like a university donation, make sure that you're either, giving some of your time or some resources that you were able to make purely based on the fact that, you got those resources from somebody else that helped you thrive. Like, if it weren't for financial aid, there's like no way that I would have been able to go through college, because even my job right now, if I work 40 hours a week for an entire year, that pays for a little bit more than like the all-in cost of state for a semester. Like my first semester at state, I want to say it cost me around like 24,000. That's about how much it would cost. Like, that's about how much I would make an entire year at my job right now.
Right.
My first job, when I was making 213, like, no way. So I agree with you. It's important to try and give back and appreciate the people who and the resources that helped you on the way up. It's there's a saying my grandparents always talk about. It's like the people that you meet going on the way up the ladder is the same people you'll meet coming back down. And so remember the people that helped you and the resources that helped you on your way up. And you can, I guess, enable that kind of same cycle to where you can be the difference between someone else, moving up in the world or staying where they are stuck. And so you should try and help others just like you were helped.
Definitely. And I do agree with that too. And I think that you should always help people. Also, I would like to just say that, you have to want to be helped as well. You know what I mean? Like, it's a certain mindset that certain people have sometimes where they feel like they want to get it on their own and like they don't want to have to thank anybody else or kind of like give anybody else the credit. And with that type of mindset, you really don't move up in life. So I would say that as long as you have a mindset for wanting to be helped and like feeling not like kind of like pushing down your ego and like saying like, hey, like we're all human beings trying to figure out the purpose of life and like just you want to be helped, then the more people are willing to help you. So that's what I would say. And I feel like, there was a lot of great things said. One thing I would ask you is that if you have anything else to plug or any other advice you kind of want to give or, whatever you want to say at this time.
I would say to, especially to people that are going into college, but even people who are still in college and don't feel like they've, they're still trying to figure it out. And that's not to say that I have figured it out, but I'm working my way there. Just be sure that you reach out, utilize the resources that are available. And so that goes back to the reach out thing, like figure out what resources that you even have to begin with. And then also make sure that you budget your money, budget your time. My first semester, I was given some money from my parents as a graduation gift. And I blew through all of that in about like 3 months. And I would say that takeout Chinese probably was like 40% of that money because I didn't know how to budget. And, it's like, it's 12 a.m. All the dining halls are closed and we're hungry. We should go get takeout Chinese. And So you got to make sure, like, yeah, okay, I can do that, maybe twice this week. And if you go past that twice and it's like, no, like go buy some ramen or something, like don't throw your money at stuff that's not going to help you in the long run. Make sure that you're budgeting your money, but then also your time. Don't waste it on something stupid. If you don't want to go and do something, but you're getting, you feel like you have to be there because it's something that, everybody else is doing. If it's not going to help you and you're not going to enjoy being there, don't do it. Spend your time on something better. Spend your time doing homework. Spend your time on doing something that you'd actually enjoy. Or if it comes to working, then get in some extra hours if you're able to. Just make sure that you're aware of what you have to work with and what's available, and you make use of all of that.
Definitely. I do agree with you and everything that you said today. And Dylan, like, I really appreciate you coming on this podcast and just kind of sharing your experiences. I feel like it's going to be very valid for people that give this episode a listen. I would just say, continue to do what you're doing. Like, you're very mature because working, I work a little bit, but like, bro, I be stressed out. So just
it's stress, man. But I appreciate you having me. I like the conversation we had. I liked hearing what you had to say as well. I hope that this is able to help somebody and that they're able to take like what we've said today and apply it to their own lives and like make use out of it so that it makes their life easier.
Definitely. And with that, I would just like to say thank everyone for listening and continue to push on. I'm making
TRIO Student Support Services Program and Student Support Services STEM are federally funded college retention and completion programs. These programs focus on academic, personal, and career support for under-resourced undergraduate students. At TRIO SSS and SSS STEM, our goal is helping our students reach their goals. We are currently accepting new students to our program. Apply today. Go to www.ncsu.edu to learn more about student support services at NC State.